Geno, Joey Johnston from the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. Your friend, Jose Fernandez, is about to become the president of the WBCA. Could you speak about your relationship with him, what you think he can bring to this role, and what you think the WBCA's priorities are for the coming year?
Well, yeah, I've known Jose for 30 years now almost, and I think he's a tremendous coach, obviously, as everybody knows, but he cares deeply about the game itself. He's been involved in various committees, and so he puts the time and the effort that it takes. I was in that role, and so I know it's a thankless role because you're trying to bring a lot of different agendas to the table and try to make them all go in the same direction. Not always easy. Hopefully, he can get the right people in the room to be okay with thinking outside the norm, asking the right people for advice. There's a lot of administrators, there's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of ADs that they've been to multiple Final Fours with the men and the women. And I think a lot of times we say, well, just because the guys do it, that doesn't mean we should do it. That's absolutely true. We do something that they don't do, which is, we have quarters. They're the only people that bounce a basketball to play halves. We advance the ball so the game lasts longer, so you have more opportunities to win the game, We did away with the one-on-one and all that. We've come up with some great ideas that have helped our game. But I also think we're sometimes afraid to look at what they do that enhances their tournament and see whether or not that fits what we want to do, and not be married to tradition, I guess is what I'm saying. And bring the game, as I've been a big proponent of this, and I'm going to talk to Jose about this, bring the game to more people. By going to 2 regionals, we've taken the game away from the people, and I think we need to bring it back to where more people can be in the stands. And lastly, we need to change the schedule. We need to finish way earlier than we finish now so that we don't come here Tuesday night, 3,000 miles, and then practice Wednesday and Thursday and play the biggest game of the year on Friday night at 9:30. And we were the last team to play on Monday. And the team we play was home Sunday afternoon. So, and that just goes for whoever played in that game. I just happened to be that person today. So we need to change the schedule so that we have more time, and maybe we need to finish on a different weekend than the men finish. Maybe we need to finish a week earlier. We do it for the conference tournaments, right? So there's a lot of things I want to talk to him about. He might be the one guy that will ask me, so that's not a bad thing.
We're going to do a little bit of a zigzag. We'll go Doug, then we'll go Dom, and then we'll work our way back.
Hey, Geno, Doug Feinberg, the AP.
Yeah.
Corey was saying before that, I guess 13 years ago, she came to watch you guys practice in the NCAA tournament. I think she said Sweet 16 round, and then came back with her staff the year later. Just can you talk about her relationship with her and just the fact you're willing to open up the biggest time of the year to let a coach who was new, so to speak, at a school come in and learn from you guys, and now you're playing her on the stage?
Yeah. If I'd have known, I wouldn't have let her in. I just remember when I was a young coach, especially in high school. When I was a young coach in high school, I always admired the coaches that were open and willing to share ideas, their ideas. I've never been one to want to hide anything or, oh my God, they're competitors. And one of the funniest things that ever happened was 3 kids from Tennessee showed up for practice for like 2 or 3 days, and they thought they called ahead, obviously. They didn't just walk in. But everybody thought at that time, oh, my God, this is like, the Cold War. The Russians are coming, right? And it was so much fun for us, for them. Basketball is basketball, and it's our job to share it if we have anything that's worth it, and if they think we have something that's worth it. And you can't worry about, anything else. And our relationship with, and through USA Basketball, Corey and I got to know each other a little bit, and we both share, passion for wines, and so her energy and all that she has, that she brings, is just infectious, I think, and I'm glad when coaches have success, and that's what we're here for.
We're gonna go to that's our left.
Don Memori, Hartford Current. Geno, you've coached a couple of Hall of Famers at UConn, and that number could double in the next couple of days. I was wondering if you can give us your thoughts on the possibility of a couple of more of your players going into the Hall of Fame.
It's so unbelievable that when you think of a 17-year-old that you're sitting there talking to, and you're projecting them as freshmen and sophomores in college and juniors in college, and where do I think they can be, and how much impact could they have on our program, and all those great things. And when they're there, you realize there's something special about them. And fast forward, and then to look up and realize that their wildest dreams have come true. I mean, what kid doesn't shoot a basket when they're 10 and think about winning a national championship, winning, a gold medal, and then somebody goes, you're the best player in the country. But I don't know that any one of those kids ever came to UConn saying, I came here to make the Hall of Fame, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I don't think anybody said that. Maybe Diana did, because, but for me to see, what's happened out there with Rebecca and Swin, and now Maya and Sue, obviously being in the mix, that pretty much is bigger than, when you look back, than all the national championships. Who? They're Hall of Famers for me. They're Hall of Famers for their family. They're Hall of Famers for everybody. They're even Hall of Famers for the UConn haters. That's one thing they can all agree on. They're Olympian Hall of Famers. They're WNBA Hall of Famers. They're college Hall of Famers. They're Hall of Famers as people, most of all.
We're gonna go to our right. Ben, if you could raise your hand so Coach can see you.
Ben Pickman with The Athletic. Dawn was in here earlier, and she mentioned that she wants, or she hopes that college basketball would have its own TV deal to determine its worth. I guess, where do you stand on...
Who said that?
Dawn.
About?
The media rights deal.
Oh, the women's basketball should have their own?
Yeah.
I thought they were doing stuff like that. I thought they were trying to spin it off. I don't know where that got, and it probably didn't get as far as maybe it could have. But we talk about that all the time. And we also, it's funny because we talk about it in our league. We talk about it as UConn. How do we get more value for our brand? Is it worth more than if you put it into collectively a bunch of other stuff? So it's worth exploring, I think. When you put it out there, you're going to have to be ready for it. It may be smaller than you think, and it may be 3 times larger than you think. So it's best to find out, right? Instead of just keep wondering. So yeah, I would think that would be fantastic.
We're going to stay to the center of the room, Coach.
Hey, Geno. Matt Baker with The Athletic. Another kind of big picture question, but revenue sharing probably going to be finalized and signed off on here in the next couple of days or weeks. What sort of impact do you expect that to have on your game and the types of programs that are able to compete for women's Final Fours?
Well, it'll ruin parity. That's number one. I mean, I'm for revenue sharing. There will be less parity in the game of basketball. If you look at right now, there's less parity happening every year in men's basketball. People talk about the football, 12 schools. It's the same 4 in the Final Four, seems like every year. And as the money now drives it, there's going to be less people that have that kind of money. There's going to be less of them that are going to want to give it to women's basketball. So if the number of teams that could win the national championship, when it was us in Tennessee and everybody wanted anybody to win other than UConn and Tennessee, and then it kind of stretched. Now you look at the landscape today, and it's still a lot of the same teams, but there's a lot more vying for that spot in the Final Four. Well, now that's all going to go away. Now it'll become like college football, where in every conference, and as the conferences get bigger, think about it, there's 18 teams in the Big Ten for now, okay? I would venture to say 8 of those teams will never get to the championship game in any sport. I'm talking about basketball, football, men's basketball maybe. So when you do those kind of things and it's money driven, it's going to be who's going to become the Dodgers and the Yankees, and how many of those are you going to have, and how many other programs in women's basketball are going to be Milwaukee and Kansas City, because that's where we're headed. And don't believe this $20.5 million salary cap. See, the thing in the NBA, if you go over the salary cap, there's a huge tax. There's a salary cap in revenue sharing in sports, in college. You think anybody in their right mind is going to stick to 20.5? That might be what's on the books, but that ain't going to be the final number. And there's nobody out there looking around to collect taxes on that.
Coach, we're going to go to our right.
Hey, Coach.
And we play UCLA. They're really good.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that in.
Hey, Coach, T. Baker with the Next. Kaitlyn Chen obviously had a great Elite Eight, and when you think about what she's brought all season, what has been the biggest difference she's brought to the team, and what gap has she filled in the roster?
Maturity, experience, things that we obviously lost when Nika graduated. She's a different player than Nika, different personality, approaches things differently, different skill set. But in what we needed for this particular team, I think she's been the perfect addition. Obviously, Sarah Strong was the biggest addition. I think Kaitlyn Chen was the perfect addition for what this team needed at the position that we needed it. And so you saw the other night in that game why it was worth bringing her in. And I have had a blast coaching her. I mean,
We'll go to the second row on our left.
contrary to Ivy League students, they do have a sense of humor.
Hi, I'm Stephanie from SB Nation. There have been a few players not from UConn this tournament run who have expressed they've come from traumatic or toxic environments to other schools. You have a wealth of coaching experience, and you obviously have players for decades that adore you. What do coaches need to do better?
Man, oh man. Even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. I mean, I can share, but I can't share that much. I just think this incredible pressure to win, and the pressure, to your question about revenue sharing, the pressure to win is only going to get greater. You mean I'm paying you guys, and this is what I got to watch? Somebody's getting fired. So the pressure's immense. It's only going to get more pressure packed. So how do you react under pressure? Well, if you've been there and done that and you're secure, you just stay the course and say, this is what we do, and if you don't like it, tough. if you're young and you're trying to make a name for yourself and you're like close or not quite there, well, I can buy a team. It's better than recruiting one. I got to wait forever for them to get better. I just go out and buy a team. Well, now the kids all know they came to your school to get paid. And when everybody's getting paid and they find out who's getting paid, what, and the animosity now between coaches and players. You know, it used to be, you know, players didn't like the fact that coaches had all the power. Well, now coaches hate the fact that players have all the power. Players on the team hate each other because of what one is getting, the other one's not getting. And all of a sudden, nobody's coming there to win a national championship. They're coming there to build their brand, to make their money. And oh, by the way, if we get to the Final Four, wouldn't that be cool? Does that happen in every program? Hell no. I bet you 90% of the programs in America, that's not the case. But the ones you're talking about, that's exactly the case.
Take our final question from the back. Chantel, if you could raise your hand.
Hey, Geno, Chantel Jennings with The Athletic. In Spokane, you said that Paige has a little bit of Diana in her. I was hoping you could expand on that. What about her on or off the court reminds you the most of Dee?
Obviously, there's a lot of similarities, and there's so many differences as well. They, in the best sense of the word, number one, they are both exceptional con artists. They can spin things so that it goes their way about 99.9% of the time. So they live in that world, which I admire that, because winners do that. They have to be right. They have to be at the top. They have to be unchallenged. So they've got that going for them. They're both extremely outgoing. They both enjoy other people's company. They're accommodating to other people. They're respectful. They're great team players. They're both generous to their teammates, both on the court, off the court. They have a flair for the moment. They can summon up something that's needed at the time when it's exactly needed. They take responsibility for what happens. They're not afraid of the criticism that might come if they fail. And I don't think anybody loves being in the gym more than those two. And if you ask them where's their happy place, and they could be any place in the world at any time, they would tell you, in a gym by myself, doing what I love to do. And that's the best way I can describe both of them in how do they compare. Now, how are they different? That would be a whole different press conference.
And speaking of which, we want to thank you for your time today, Coach.
Thank you.
Best of luck
Appreciate
tomorrow.
it.